Not time yet.
What?
Yeah, we're 1 minute out.
You can do the like 5, 4. Countdown.
Oh yeah, we got 3 people.
It's probably on mom's.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, my daughter. Yeah, these guys.
Yeah, Susan have it on there.
Yeah. All right, we're connected on YouTube.
Okay, question.
Everyone that's tuning in on YouTube, thanks for chiming in. Feel free to leave a little comment or say hello. And then let's see what else. Let's see if we're live on LinkedIn. Let me see. And we're live on LinkedIn. Okay. All right. Let's wait a little bit so everyone joins us. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday right before the holiday week, holiday season. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? All right.
Some yeses, thumbs up.
Got some thumbs up. Got some yeses. Okay. All right. All right, everyone. I guess let's just get this kicked off. I mean, this is the first round of Rotary Roundtable we've ever done. Right now, we got some new equipment. We're messing with some new equipment, and this is the first one. So I'm kind of doing the technical side and kind of trying to lead the conversation. So I hope you bear with us. And a common theme around the Rotary podcast has been adapting to the changes, right? It's been adapting to this new normal we're in. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to be innovative and adapt. So it's good. If it's smooth, that's great. If it's shaky, just bear with us. It's gonna be fun. You signed up for it. And what else are you gonna do on the Friday before Christmas, right? Let's do this. Okay. All right. Let me say, Claiborne Ross saying, "What up? What's going on, buddy? How you been? How's the family?" So what we're gonna do? This is how we're gonna break it down today for those that are watching. So we're gonna start off. I'm gonna kind of discuss the purpose of this for a little bit. We're gonna go around and say hello to some people that are tuning in, and then what we're gonna do, either we're gonna transfer the focus over to the student SBE members who will ask their questions, and then we'll have the industry professionals. That's I like that.
That's a bold claim.
It sounds more. It sounds very important, you know what I mean? But I had to get people on this to watch it. So anyway, so then we'll get the industry professionals discussing their ideas on whether it's the reflections of their time in the oil and gas industry. What's up? I got to shout out to actually. Well, I'm gonna wait on that. But anyway, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna open it up. As you can tell, I'm a little bit nervous, but that's okay. Being nervous is good. And then we're gonna open it up to the industry professionals to kind of give their insight, their feedback. A couple, and then after that, I think depending on time, I want to open this up to the audience out there, to everyone out there listening in, and hopefully get some questions up that we can address or have any type of general discussions that we want. So I'm gonna start saying hello to a couple of people. First and foremost, I need to say hello to my wife, Monica, and our daughter Evelyn.
Hey, Monica.
Anyway, we want to say hello, and my daughter's been super excited for this. Actually, probably more. She's 7. She's probably more excited for this than Christmas. So don't worry, Evelyn. We'll tell Santa that this is what you want for Christmas and send the gifts back. So, kidding, Evelyn. All right. So let's see who else is tuning in. Nicholas Williams, my boy. He was on the Around the Rotary podcast earlier. He's been pumping out some great content. Check out his Friday freebies. Thanks for tuning in. I think you're in Colorado right now. Who else? Andrew Coronado. What's going on, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. Not playing golf today. This impressive over golf, huh? All right. Got a lot of people. Jordan Christian saying hello. The tie makes it official. That's the point of this. I wasn't gonna go with the tie, but
You let us down. You didn't give us the memo.
We got some shining students here. We got some industry professionals. I gotta blend in. I gotta act like a bartender. All right. David Gibson, who has been a huge help, support, guidance for me, and actually a champion for Around the Rotary podcast. And you should check out David Gibson's show. It's a LinkedIn live show every Friday. It's a V-Door Locksmith show, and he's been a huge support and a big help for me. And And I thought it was pretty good, David. I liked it, minus the technical difficulties, but I'll be expecting that. All right, let's see what we got. Donnie Davis, absolute stud. Very sweet. Thank you. All right. Okay. Who is everyone chiming in from anywhere outside of Houston, or where's everyone listening to this today? Just feel free to drop your comments in, and let's see where everyone's listening. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, no one is. No one's telling. No one's. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Okay. Before we begin, I got to say that Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by. Oh man. I need to see that. Yeah, see that remote right there. Capital Patrol, Round the Rotary. There we go. There we go. It's brought to you by Capital Patrol Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering, well site supervision, in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today or you in a couple of years. So, all right. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, we got, okay, let's see, we got a couple people, Midland. We got Ann from Midland saying, go Dean. All right, and Wynn saying, go Dean. We got my mom. She's listening and watching from Connecticut. Hello, mother. I love you. All right, we got, what else? We got College Station. We got Houston. We got Matthew Hill chiming in. Let's see some elbows. So the story behind that, I did a test before I contacted Dave Gibson, and it was literally just a live podcast of my elbow. I was like, oh, rats at the end. So okay, we got Joe saying hello from Pittsburgh. We got Midland, Austin Bryant, my boy tuned in from Houston. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Jennifer Thane from Tuttle, Oklahoma. Hello, happy Friday. And, ooh, all right, we have Khazar University SPE chapter, Azerbaijan. Welcome, very awesome, cool. I love seeing that. Cool. International, very cool, right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. We got another Houston, Shane, hello. Here from Louisiana, I'm assuming, probably not LA, with Paul Snow. San Antonio, yeah, I think that's it. Let's see if everyone's kind of chiming in, tuning in. And I think we're gonna get this kicked off here probably about the next minute or so. We're gonna have everyone at this table kind of introduce themselves and feel free to chime in, or if you have a question, maybe hold it to the end. We'll do some Q&A. But the first half of this is just gonna be a conversation with these 6 people, 7, including me, and we'll just kind of get some questions from them and get some feedback from everyone else. So we're looking forward to this. Thank you for joining us. And again, you can find Round the Rotary on any podcast streaming platform, Spotify, Apple, on YouTube, Instagram, and all that. So again, thank you, everyone. And let's get this started. So who wants to get this kicked off? Let's start off with to my right.
Go ahead. Thanks for hosting. Thank you for having us. I'm Keith Ogdee, drilling manager for Escondido Resources, overseeing drilling operations. We're an Eagleford operator, mostly in the dry gas window, Webb County, near Laredo on the map.
All right, that's a very good intro. And so, did you say where you went to school?
I did not. Texas A&M University.
Oh man,
all right.
Skip the most important part.
All right. Well, welcome, Keith. Glad you're here, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
All right, and hello everyone. My name is Nhung Nguyen. I'm currently a senior studying petroleum engineering at the University of Houston. So I'm also the vice president of the SBE chapter there. So this is my very first podcast. So forgive me if you see my voice shaking or any sweating on my face. But I'm looking forward to a great discussion with everyone here and with everyone out there is watching. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. It's my 55th podcast. I'm still nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say half the time. So, well, thanks for being here as well.
Thank you for having me.
Sweet. Well, yeah, this is also my first podcast, so got to work on that a little bit. But my name is Niels. I am the Petrol captain, if you ever heard of that. It's like Jeopardy, but for petroleum engineers. It's like a SP sponsored event. I'm a senior at the Colorado School of Mines right now, so graduating in May. So also looking forward to kind of having a little discussion about what the future looks like and kind of what we should do as seniors. So, yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm also the patrol team captain, so yeah,
Are
I
you
know
serious?
what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do some trivia halfway through this, maybe.
Where's ATC at this year? They canceled it, right?
It went on
The Middle East.
line. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Ready?
I'm ready, but I'm going to chime in. I'm going to interrupt, like
Come on.
like we discussed earlier.
Perfect.
That's my special skill, interrupt. Again, I don't think I discussed did I discuss the purpose of this? I mean, the purpose is pretty much to kind of, we want to bring the oil field a little bit closer, and we want to provide a platform for that's outside of the career fairs or the conferences or the facility tours that y'all I'm sure have done. We want to kind of provide a different platform so we can kind of make some more connections and reduce the size of the oil field so people know. And also, it's also for students out there or new graduates who are thinking about entering into the oil and gas industry, just to provide some more detail, more insight. So it's also kind of be an advocate for our industry as well. So that's my interruption, and I'm going to pass the mic.
Awesome. All right, Mike Arispe here, 2005 graduate of Texas Tech University, petroleum engineering. I've been in the industry for 15 years. 14 of it was with Anadarko Petroleum, or drilling, completions, production, as well as reservoir, little stem reservoir. Check that box. But I'm currently with Endeavor. The last year, I transitioned over to Endeavor. I've been there for 1 year. So I'm their projects operations manager, and that's basically getting oil and gas and water and pipelines, infrastructure, everything ready for sales. So a little different role for me, but I'm enjoying it. And I'm based out of Midland, Texas.
And one of Michael's biggest achievements this year in 2020, he was one of the first guests on Around the Rotary podcast. You can find that out. And it's actually one of the top 5 downloaded podcasts of Around the Rotary, not like against, legit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so congratulations on that, Mike. I know you've been gunning for the #1, and hopefully we can get you there after today.
There we go.
All right.
Hey, keep the paparazzi away, you know.
Paparazzi's not here. Believe me, don't worry about that.
Joe Rogan's coming up.
Yeah, that's right. So, my name's Andrew Abbott. I'm from Midland, Texas. Went to Texas A&M, graduated in 2014, so I've been in the industry a little over 5 years. First part of my career was on the operations side. Second part has been on the reservoir side. I've been with EOG Resources the whole time, and currently working here in Houston, Texas, reservoir engineer on the international team.
International.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Nice.
Thanks for putting this on, JP.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're able to join us, bud.
Awesome.
All right, so howdy, my name is Dee Murphy, class of 21 petroleum engineer from Texas A&M. Also the current SPE, TAMU SPE student chapter president. I'm just looking forward to a great conversation today.
Good. Well, I think it would be a good conversation regardless. So I guess let's get this kicked off. Let's start with somebody from one of the student SPE chapters, and I've asked you probably about a couple days ago to start thinking about questions that would be pertainable to for this round the Rotary Roundtable forum. So I guess whoever wants to lead off, you can ask a general question, you can ask someone specific. Let's just have a conversation right now. Let's have a good time.
Sure.
All right. So let's go. Go ahead.
I guess I can start us off. So I was curious, what do kind of getting some of the employer outlook on this? What do you guys think of online education? How do you think that's going to affect students and affect these people that are eventually going to work for your companies?
Start off with that one.
I think I'll kick it off. I think it's been a very interesting dynamic, the last 6-8 months for everybody, from the educational process to corporate world, operations in the field with COVID. We've all had to learn how to operate within this new set of rules of social distancing relative to COVID. So the impacts that I've seen from it have been the lack of social interaction, the lack of face-to-face collaboration and things. We can do all the meetings, we can do all the phone calls, but we've had to figure out how to pull things out from a computer screen versus being able to sit around the table. The pros to that are, I think there's a lot more efficiency. Meetings are more efficient because you have a meeting, you join and you leave. You don't have the lingering 10 or 15 or hour-long conversation afterwards that happens a lot of times, good and bad. The good is it facilitates conversations that relative to the topic you just had, you might end up on something completely different, but you get a lot more interaction. Virtual meetings are typically, you go through your meeting, you disconnect, and you're done. Then you can move on, you can pull up, you can catch your email up, you can do the work you need to do. It's a lot easier to focus on individual tasks. As far as collaboration, though, it really limits it from what I've seen.
So that's interesting. I've noticed lately, like, whenever you're on like a Zoom or Microsoft Teams meeting, it's like you get done with the business, the topics, and then people like want to linger around to show like, oh, I'm still doing my job, I'm still working. And like, I feel like the conversation, like, run the Zoom meetings, run the Microsoft Team meetings, and end when they need it. That's my experience at least. So
Well, typically that falls on one or two people who everyone knows who those two people are.
okay.
Continuing to talk, but no, I agree. I think you have improved efficiency from being able to do stuff online. Like if you live in Houston, Texas, and you live in Katy, then that could be an hour one-way drive that you're doing twice a day, right? And so that's 2 hours lost. And so you gain some efficiency, but you lose out on some intangibles, right? So efficiency is really good for, you have your process, you're getting your tasks done. Creativity in business is what grows the business long-term. And I think some of that is lost, right? And so one of the main things, that one of my main points today is this business is what you know, but also who you know, right? And it's about relationships and how you treat people and the connections you have, on top of being good at your job, right? And so being able to do virtual allows you to learn that stuff in a really efficient way. And so it allows you to be really good at your job, but you need to make sure that you're also growing in the other aspect as well of interacting with people and understanding relationships and learning from other people. And that's what really can open doors.
I would agree. Touched on the efficiencies of it, the interpersonal, communications and the contacts. It's just, I don't have any issues with online education, right? My opinion is that you get the majority of it with hands-on experience, and that's still going on. The drilling rigs are still running. The frac crews are still running. I don't know how many of y'all have classes that are in one of my classes when I was in school was actually in the field. We would go to a location in the field each and every day, and we had a pumping unit offsite, and we would go out there once a week to study it. But it's on the job trainings where you learn a lot, right? All of us have college degrees here, where all of y'all will have college degrees. That's just a measure of your ability to learn and have the ability to learn. It's the on the job that we can pick up after the fact. But I don't have any issues with online training.
Do you feel like
online education?
Do you feel that that y'all's networks has kind of been thinned out since March, or do you still feel like y'all have still the same strong network base since all this online quarantine stuff started happening?
It's a drop. Obviously the industry activities, the charity events, the networking opportunities have dropped, the happy hours and things like that. So you see less people. There are obviously, with the attrition of the industry, people have left the industry. They've gone to real estate, they've gone to housing, they've gone to other industries, automotive. They've left the industry. So there is attrition there, but I do feel that there still are networking opportunities, and people are, even this fall, they've started to host more charity events, more golf tournaments, more sporting clay events. You're starting to see the interaction come back. We're trying to get to a point of normalcy, but yeah, I'd say my network has dropped.
Really?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, just the lack of social interaction with, not day-to-day people that you're transacting work with, but you just see in events. Certainly this year's had a significant impact on that. With every setback, though, there's a silver lining. And to me, the silver lining is this whole experience has accelerated the adaptation of virtual video conferencing in the corporate world, for sure. And I don't know, curious to hear your perspective. You guys your generation has grown up with FaceTime or a lot more virtual video talking, texting.
It's more normal. It's more normal.
Ingrained in your demographic society, But what I see is it's forced the corporate world into it much more quickly than we were ever going to get there. And I think there's going to be a lot of benefits tying remote operations that way also. They're not there yet. I mean, we've come a long way on the drilling completions. You can watch what's going on second by second live from anywhere. I think that's going to continue to evolve to a more you know, we video conference with, you know, a drilling rig, a frac van, a lot more as things progress because everybody's more comfortable with it. We've had to learn it. So.
Yeah. That was it before March. If someone's like, hey man, I'm gonna FaceTime you. I'd be like, no, text me. Absolutely not. But now it's like, why isn't Ogdee picking up his FaceTime? Now it's weird that no one's picking up for FaceTime.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I mean, I don't know, from your perspective, is it been a step change so much for you guys with friends? Obviously classes weren't so much virtual, but I mean, was it just kind of a natural go to Zoom and tie in?
For me as a student, and I feel like I actually enjoy like online and Zoom stuff. And I'm just about my network first. Like I just started to build my network, and one of my mentor, like just as a senior student, so she's talked to me and she mentored me, and she like, why don't you like schedule a Zoom like virtual coffee? Like just reach out to people and ask for a Zoom meeting. So I kind of surprised at first, but like it's turned out like it's more how do I say, effective than I thought, and people willing to do that. Like they're busy all day, so they would like to take like 15 minutes, 30-minute chat out of their work day, and I'll be able to talk to some people that I never think that I can, like, if it's in person, and it will be hard for me to meet with them because they live in a different state, different part of the city. So I guess a Zoom meeting, a virtual chat is a really good idea, and I would like to kind of share that. And I think for us as students, as younger generation, then it's kind of we always used to texting and chatting, so it's leveled up to a video call. It's not a big deal at all. Yeah.
I think even like no matter how well you know the technology and everything, when you throw technology into the mix, there's always technological issues, and that sometimes, at least in the school setting, can make things difficult with especially teachers and being assignments and things like that. And I think one thing I've noticed at the Colorado School of Mines is it's sort of like polarized people a little bit to like their friend groups. You know, there's certain people you just kind of run into in the hallways, that you run into in the labs. But you know, when you're all virtual, it's kind of like, you know, you have like your best friends that you kind of only talk to, and you kind of forget about some of the other senior class that you used to just kind of run into or interact with. And so kind of like we were talking about, the network, the interpersonal things are kind of limited. I notice a lot. So
I notice that a lot as well. It's funny with everything being virtual, you know, everything has to be planned or scheduled, even if it's supposed to be a casual conversation you might have with your friends. You know, hey, are you working, or you know, are you studying or anything like that, or you have a class or something like that. You've got to schedule a Zoom meeting, whereas, you know, like you said, in the halls, you just bump into them. It's like, hey, you want to go grab lunch on campus and then go to our next class? But you know, now everything has to be scheduled. So like you were saying, you know, after a meeting, you could run into someone casually and, you know, start talking about whatever and go afterward and have drinks or something like that. But nowadays, it's, you know, you really have to, you know, approach someone, tell them you want to, you know, coordinate something to get the ball rolling. So,
Dedicated effort.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's such a I feel like that's such a targeted networking effort. You know, I mean, back, you know, usually as you're talking about, whether it's industry events, happy hours, or meetings, and tagging up someone after, I mean, that's got to be kind of challenging for y'all to, number one, find out who you need to be networking with. Number two, reaching out to them. I mean, some people don't even use LinkedIn that much. They might have a profile, but don't even use it. So that's a challenge, I think, for y'all. It's like maybe before March, when all this, the world changed, it was probably might have been a little bit easier for y'all to network and kind of expand your network. But that's going to be kind of challenging for y'all. How could we, I guess, what would you need from, I guess, the current industry on when it comes to the networking side of things and introducing y'all to people? I mean, what does that look like? What would be realistic?
Yeah, I think, and we kind of touched on this last time, but I think that being able to reach out to students and advertise that you're willing to help, I think is the biggest part, because as a student that, you know, obviously talks to other students, the general vibe seems to be that, you know, oh, this guy is a VP or a manager or something like that, and, you know, oh, he'll never want to talk to me. If I message him, you know, he's probably busy, something like that. Whereas if you go out and you know, make a post on LinkedIn or whatever social media you might be using, and you say, hey, if you're an undergrad and you need help, reach out to me and I can look at your resume or something like that. It doesn't have to be a, you know, regular dedicated mentorship, but a simple resume review or interview practice or something like that would be super helpful.
Man, this is kind of off the cuff. That'd be kind of cool to get a little directory about people who would be willing to do have a mentorship. That's a great idea, JP. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
That is awesome.
From a networking standpoint, so at one time, whether it's a year ago, the operators were beating on the doors of universities, whether it's A&M, UT, Texas Tech, OU, Colorado, we could go around the horn, but trying to provide information sessions, technical sessions. Are y'all still hosting those? Are there still a lot of operators that are willing to do those, or even service companies too?
So
have y'all seen a decline in those, or?
We try to set them up all the time. We always reaching out to companies, but we've noticed that nowadays, I think the companies are maybe thinking that we're wanting money as well, so they're kind of wanting to stay away from it for now, at least. But there are some companies who've offered free help and do little hour sessions and stuff like that. And those have been great.
Yeah, and just maybe to add on, I think we typically think of when companies get involved that it has to involve money. And honestly, just even a little bit of time, just spending a little bit of time with us, I think, especially with the industry right now, it's like just having a little bit of support behind our backs, I think goes a long way, especially right now when a lot of people maybe don't have the best perspectives on their career choice or whatever. So
yeah. Another thing about virtual events is you don't have to pay for booth space. You don't have to pay to rent out a room or building or something. So or buy food for the general meeting. So for us, we've had a lot of success with just having free Zoom calls that people don't pay anything and they show up and share their knowledge.
Yes, I always thought when I was a student, that was the best opportunity to network. Is they'd have a technical session, you'd introduce yourself, ask questions, you learn, free, whatever. They bought pizza for $200, $300, whatever. Mm-hmm. But always introducing myself. I always thought that was a really good end to
Was networking a big deal? Did you view networking as being as important as it is today when you were, I guess, in their shoes, when you were students?
More so for me.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
No,
I
was just agreeing with you.
What I'm kind of, putting together here is for not being able to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand. For me, if I'm meeting you over a Zoom call, I don't know, there's a learning curve there for me to get used to, okay, how do I get to know this person? Because I'm not used to that like I am having a conversation face to face, like an interview or even just a casual meeting. After a presentation, you come up and you say hello, somebody shakes your hand and that leaves an impression.
Yes.
I don't know how I get that same impression over Zoom, quite honestly, to put it bluntly. But again, I think it's a dedicated, you got to we have to be open to it, and anybody, students or early career, have to be the ones to reach out. You have to take the initiative. Like, hey, I'm interested to talk to you about something. There's no hook here. I'm not trying to sell something. Like some advice, or I'm just looking for somebody with some perspective in the industry to share 5 minutes with me over Zoom. And I think that's a great idea. That's not something that had ever crossed my mind as far as that's needed out there right now. I think because there is much more separation, a bigger gap between industry and school. Industry's down. The overall morale is down due to the environment. On top of that, we have COVID that's keeping everyone apart. So that those really compound each other. And as far as contacts for me, when graduating, staying involved through school and then after school was tremendous. I mean, what
do you mean staying involved? Like what do you mean?
Anyway, industry, SPE, ASME, pick an organization that is tied to the industry somehow, where you can meet somebody else that you wouldn't otherwise meet, whether it's a coworker or a superior.
And that's a good point. So Michael and I were talking about this before we went live with this, and I think you had some interesting points too about getting involved and student involvement. Yeah,
absolutely.
So get on that.
So I'll just say real quick. So when I was at Anadarko for 14 years, I was a lead recruiter for Texas Tech. Right, we had one engineer or operations manager that was the dedicated lead and helped bring 40 engineers, petroleum, mechanical, and chemical in the doors of Anadarko. I was part of the decision for hundreds, coming in the doors from all the schools. But anyhow, that was one of the biggest things is, again, what you said is just when y'all are on campus, what are y'all's priorities? I've gone through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of interviews of candidates that they have 0 internships or 1 internship. And I was like, what have you been doing? And how are you working towards getting a job? And, a lot of them are the president of their fraternity. It's what I'm getting to is just setting your priorities in school. And by the fact that y'all are here having the conversation with us is that, you know, oil and gas is y'all's priority and y'all are trying to learn. A lot of y'all's peers do not feel the same way. You know, and I asked, you know, maybe it's an unfair question. It's like, so what do you think your priorities are? And he's like, it was his fraternity, and then golfing, and then weightlifting, and gym, and then, you know, church, and then, you know, traveling. And then it was like at the very bottom was like SPE. I was like, do you ever go to SPE or AADE? And he's like, no, whenever they have good food, you know. Seriously. So I just,
that's like a 70-year-old retirement. It's like priorities, golfing, water aerobics.
And so it very quickly turned from an interview to me helping him out. Like, hey, you got to get your priorities straight. But when you network and when you're a leader, when you're in a leader role, whether it's AADE, SPE, or whatever organization is on campus, it does provide you the opportunity to network, get your face out, you show leadership skills, you show confidence, and that's what attracts some of the operators and service providers to hire you. So.
Yeah, so he has a good point. There's really like two silver linings with this whole kind of like Zoom call thing, right? As he just mentioned, the majority of people out there are not going to have the drive to go out and put themselves out there and reach out to someone and say, hey, you know, could we meet for a quick Zoom call, right? So that's like advantage number one. You have an opportunity to really set yourself apart. You don't want to be the person who COVID hit and no one heard from you for a year and a half and you disappeared. Yeah. Right? Like that's not the type of person you want to be. You want to be the person who's checking in on the people that you already know, you know, someone who's reaching out to, as Michael said, to get advice, right? And then the second silver lining is that it doesn't take much time for these people to hop on a Zoom call. Whereas previously it's like, oh, they have to commit to like a full lunch or a dinner, right? Like that's a big commitment for some of these high level people whose schedule is packed every single day. So much so that they have a secretary organize it, right? So now you can get on a 5-minute Zoom call. And I think your point is correct. Like it is hard to make a lasting relationship through Zoom, but it's the open door that can lead to, then you run into that person randomly, you know, and you say, hey, what's going on? And networking is not about going to these events and getting business cards. Like no one likes that person.
Amen.
Right? No one likes that person. Like
I gotta go.
If you're approaching life like that, that's the wrong way to approach life. You should be approaching life by going to these events saying, hey, every single person here has something that they're better at than me. My goal is to figure out what that is. So networking is a learning experience for you, right? These events are a learning experience where you go and then that relationship starts, you know, and you add value back to the relationship. It's not a one-way mentorship thing, right? Okay, you know, they're gonna get you in the door. You gotta kind of figure out ways that you can add value to that person's life, right? Which can be hard to do when someone is high up and they seem to have everything going for them. But there's ways to do it. Like if you can show you're dedicated to the community through like service involvement, that adds value to them because their dollars are going to community services, right?
And another thing too, I mean, we're talking about setting up these Zoom conferences and all that stuff. I feel like the majority is probably through LinkedIn direct messaging, right? LinkedIn messaging, it's a cluster. I mean, you get emails from everybody, Bitcoin, insurance, financial plan, whatever. It's so I think if you don't get a response back, or if you don't, I would either ping them again, or they might just be busy and just move on. Don't take it as a failure or rejection. I mean, and a lot of times, I mean, I don't check my inbox, and when I do, I'm like, okay, I need to get back to that. It's always buried. But a lot of times too, I think people want to feel like they're, you know, if someone reached out, was like, hey, I just want to kind of have a coffee and just talk to you, maybe just talk about your career and kind of I'd be honored. You know, I think there's a certain side of that too, where it's, you know, if you are reaching out to these people that are so busy, there's still some sort of like, wow, I'm pretty honored. Okay, yeah, I'll meet this person for coffee. Absolutely, I'll do that.
So here's a method for like almost 100% success. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should have sold tickets to this.
Seriously, this method is a game changer, right? So every single one of y'all knows at least one person in the industry because you're talking to us right now, right? You use the connections you have and you go to those people and say, hey, I'm really interested in this. Do you know anyone who is like an expert in this subject matter, who works at X company or whatever? And you have that person set up the connection. Right? So now whenever you're meeting that person, rather than being just a blind meetup, they have trust that like you're a reasonable, trustable person because someone they know on a personal level like recommended y'all meet, right? And so whenever you have that, I mean, that's like, I've never seen that get declined, right? And so that's an easy way, much more effective way than like sliding into someone's LinkedIn DMs. Yeah,
sure. That's gonna be so used now. I can't wait.
This is where we advertise premium subscription to learn.
Yes, exactly.
This is not a master class. I refuse. I refuse to support master class.
So I mean, so besides LinkedIn, how else can I guess they increase their networks? I mean, besides LinkedIn and site tours and all that. I mean, besides pinging people, that's kind of what's at y'all's disposal right now.
You mind if I chat?
It's a conversation.
Being active in charity.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. So
great point.
I've met hundreds and hundreds, not thousands of people being active in charity and having that same common interest of serving others. Right. So I'm pretty active in 3 different charities. Right.
Which ones?
Sky High for kids, which is for pediatric cancer. Junior Achievement. I'm on the board for West Texas and Permian Basin. That's educating students from kindergarten all the way through high school on economics and financials and things like that. And then the third is Wounded Warrior. So just by participating in those events, hosting events in Midland and participating in events in Houston and San Antonio, I've met so many people within the industry because there's a common theme of people serving others, helping kids, pediatric cancer, serving our veterans. You know, that's having that common interest can make a connection.
Yeah, that's the best advice given all day. Everyone out there, write that down. That's the one thing you should take away from this, especially if you're a student. Because I mean, when I'm sitting on the other side of the interview table and a student has shown that they can master their academics, but also involved in the community in some sort of leadership position, I mean, that's like you're sky high above your competition.
That's my dad's always told me, he's like, look, you know, we don't hire 4.0 students, you know what I mean? Like we want to see like a 3.5 with a lot of involvement, charity work, involvement, just organizational involvement. So that GPA isn't going to be the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. It's going to be the stuff that you do alongside to help marry that, I guess, to help kind of round your resume out, whatever you want to call it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can you lead in a business if you've never led elsewhere?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, like at our chapter, we usually organize some volunteer events like at Houston Food Bank, Houston Botanic Garden. So it's very close place and easy to go there. And it's just a morning, spending a morning, but can meet a lot of people. And I think another thing people do is like they're hosting a lot of like golf tournament, clay shooting, like at some event like that. If students like come out and volunteer or hosting that, and you can meet a lot of more people.
Volunteering, helping to set up at these charity events, meeting people. There was, you know, when I was in college, I remember I was helping at a charity event and we're setting up at this golf tournament, you know, putting posts in the ground at every tee box. And, you know, me and this guy were riding around on a golf cart when I met him. He was an operations manager for, you know, and so we're BS'd and connected and you know, I still keep in touch with them. So they help out.
You know what? Honestly, in this new norm, I don't think it'd be a bad idea for these, you know, whether it's SBAD or something like that, to have maybe after the golf tournament and all that stuff, have something where you can go into this little networking half hour, something like that. So if people that don't play golf or shoot or anything, that might be turning networking.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because when you're golfing, you got 3 other people with you.
That's it.
And that's it. And you get to know them really well, which I do think there's value into that, going deep with people rather than just like surface level with people.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it would allow people to maybe, you know, students to meet a few more people.
Something that we've done with our golf tournament and our clay shoes, you know, for like golf or something like that, you might have a breakfast that's, you know, 1 hour long, 2 hours long at the beginning. That way you kind of get to know the people that are on your team. Then you get the, you know, the personal time actually playing with them. And then afterwards, we usually have like a little lunch or a little kind of like happy hour kind of thing there at the end. And I think that's allowed for you know, fostered a lot of communication between the professionals and the students.
So one question that we got to kind of I wanted to answer the question, and we're all talking networking, virtual. Steve Carroll brought up a good point that often the culture gets lost in these Zoom meetings, the company culture, which is, I mean, you can definitely tell. I mean, being in sales, you know what each company feels like. You know what I mean? That's a good point. I mean, company culture also needs to be maintained during these times. I want to get to Drew Shearer. How do you pronounce? Shearer. So we had a writing question. I'm gonna ask it, then I'm gonna type it because I'm kind of doing this DJ thing right now. So his question was, how worried should students about to enter the workforce be worried about competition for positions from more experienced engineers and geologists who have unfortunately been laid off over the past few months? That's a good question.
It is. I don't know.
Okay,
So students have two distinct advantages. They're cheaper than they are. Okay, so that's advantage number one. To a company, they don't have to pay you as high of a salary, as big of a bonus. Second, you're willing to go to the field, right? A lot of these older engineers, they did their time in the field. They have a family with kids now that might not be there to mow anymore. You know, you get some guys who love the field and they do it their whole life, and some people are like, I'm checking the box and then I'm going to do office, right? Students are willing to typically, you know, relocate to maybe less ideal places, New Mexico and stuff like that, right? More so than engineers who are already working. So you have that advantage, right? You clearly, just because you don't have the experience, you aren't going to be as caught up, you know, on oil and gas technical skill. But if you show promise through your academics, through your extracurriculars, JP was talking about, then you set yourself up well because you're cheaper.
So, agree totally. Did all of you guys have a class, Mike mentioned a class that involved hands-on getting to a well site? Did you guys have that?
Yeah, we do, and we usually have some when the pandemic was hit, and we had some company tours, and we went there and we have like a workshop, like where the company show us the tools and different parts. So yeah, that's where we learned some hands-on experience.
Because I think that's huge, and that's, you know, being an engineer, whether you end up operations, reservoir, either one, having an understanding of hands-on, not only what does it take to drill complete a well, stand there at the wellhead, know what a wellhead is, know what it takes, the production equipment required to get to sets. That comes into play in every facet. In having an understanding of that, which I've seen many, many times, there isn't one, sadly, even with late career engineers, is a big issue. Because when you're talking through things and when you're strategizing for the company, developing a field, whether it's where are we going to drill next, or where are we going to set compression, how are we going to lay our gathering system, all of those things tie into all facets. So my recommendation would be, as early as you possibly can, get as close to the well as possible. It's never going to be easier. You will never have more free time than you have now. But no questions asked. It'll never be easier. You're going to have fewer things to move if it requires relocating. It's probably not going to be a desirable location. Most of them aren't. Do it now. You're not going to want to get away from your friends, but it'll never be easier than your first job out of school. And I think that step is skipped by a majority, not necessarily by choice. I think as companies, we need to push that as well.
Yeah, do you have any? I wanted to ask a quick question off of that, because I know for some of our rising, maybe sophomores and juniors at the Colorado School of Mines, we typically have this field session where we go out, and it's probably similar to what you were talking about, where we can go on the field, we can see a drilling rig, see some anticlines and various things like that. And one of the big things with COVID is that's kind of become virtual, and this is actually our first one got canceled, where you go see the drilling rig and things like that. And so I think some students find the opportunities to maybe go see the hands-on things like you were talking about very limited, especially with limited internships and full-time offers. So do you have any advice for like how they could get that exposure maybe right now, even though they can't? Maybe those opportunities are limited.
I'd say, you know, if it's not an active drilling rig, there are, whether it's going to a BOP shop, NOV probably has a warehouse somewhere around you in Denver, you know, whether it's Cameron or FMC, I'm sure that they have a stack up or a rig up in one of their shops that, you know, so if it's not on the job actively drilling, you know, because of safety or COVID, there are companies probably within 50 miles of where y'all are at, every single one of y'all's universities, that will open their shops up and gladly welcome y'all in to see parts and components. Y'all agree with that?
Absolutely.
Y'all just did a festival.
Motor shops, bit shops, somebody will let y'all in and see.
And I would, you know, assuming you're still in school, push that through your sponsor of your organization. Have them help you. They should know. They should have contacts around the area to help at least put you to the right people to go find a shop to go tour, see how something's made. As you come out and you move through, right, competing with older, more experienced engineers, to me, where you really can take advantage of what Andrew said is, I'd like to do a field position, whether it's a gauger and, go out and drive wells, drive a route. If you say, I want to go do that, I'm willing to go do that to learn, you're going to jump off the page because you're telling them that I'm willing to go start and learn the ground level business. I'm not trying to jump right into the office job that I think, is the highest rank I can get right out. It's important to keep in perspective. Take your time. Don't get in a hurry to progress your career. Step through the steps and learn each one. It'll feel like it's maybe not what you want to be doing right now, but if you're doing that and doing it well and exhibiting work ethic, good attitude, doing something that your boss or their boss's boss is looking at and going, hey, that person, they're taking the initiative, not just trying to skip steps to get to that next title right away. They're working their way through. You're going to take in so much valuable knowledge along the way. It'll separate you down the road.
So geographical location, we talked about the pay. What access do y'all have to like software programs, like data analytics? Do y'all's university provide you with Spotfire, TIBCO Spotfire, anything like that? So that's an area where I feel that the younger generation could, there's 5, 8, 10, 12, 15-year engineers that, they have the downhole experience, but they don't have the ability to learn that. If you can jump on webinars for free, take advantage of that learning. You can sign up. I'm pretty sure within the next week, TIBCO or somebody that has a data analytics software is going to host a webinar, free access. Go to YouTube, watch YouTube videos of how to do some type of a plot and learn that skill set, because that's something you bring to the table.
Yeah, that's a skill set, and that's something that like you see older engineers can kind of like pick up on, something a lot harder that a lot of y'all are really good at, is stuff like Python. Yeah. So Python is like the program that's used for data manipulation within the industry, right? And if you're good at that, then you have a huge leg up on people just 5 years old. Like a lot of my peers, right, wouldn't be able to code any sort of program, right? And I'm seeing these students come in and they can code up tons of programs, right? And you can manipulate data infinitely faster than Excel. And so that's a huge advantage that you'll have. Y'all just kind of grown up around coding, classes on it. We didn't have classes on that. I mean, you did, but no one took them.
So sell yourself as the Python, come in and sell. I'll be the junior Python helper, trainer, whatever. In a tough industry, that's how you get in the door, and then you prove yourself. It's getting in the door that's the hard part.
Yeah, and Steve Carroll actually brought up a good point. People are concerned about it. Like, oh, there's so many engineers that are out of work. How am I going to come in and all this stuff? He brought up a good point. He said students versus experienced engineers, proven performers versus unproven performers. Companies need a mix. You know what I mean? And you do need a mix. And going back to your conversation about going to the field and get field experience, you can tell. I mean, after people have been in this industry long enough, you can tell if they've had field experience or not. It just makes you more well-rounded professional, in my opinion.
Yes. Kind of going back to your question, you were saying, how can you find field roles when maybe there's not as many posted because there's just less people working right now. Kind of building on that, I found success again through LinkedIn by reaching out to people that I know work for machine shops or tool shops that are in the Houston area. And so maybe like we said earlier, maybe not all of them reply to you, but if you reach out to 10 of them or something like that, you'll get a few replies. And there have been a few times where I've reached out and just kind of asked what kind of tools they have, get familiar, and then the next day they'll ask you, hey, you want to come by the shop? And then you get to have that field experience or that shop experience without actually having a traditional internship or applying to a traditional job posting. You can still kind of get some of that field experience without all that.
Yeah, and a couple of my friends have some cool stories. So in 2015 was the first kind of big dip we had on this past year, obviously. And a lot of my friends who had jobs got those offers rescinded, and so they were in a really tough spot of they went through their whole senior year thinking they were going to be employed. At the end of it, hey, we don't have a spot for you. I'm so sorry. What do you do, right? Well, a couple of these guys went to Midland, Texas, and they just looked up rig companies. And they went to these people, to the owner's house, and they knocked on the door. I'm not making this up. They knocked on the door. They said, I want to be a field hand on the rig. And they were a roughneck for a year. And once they did that, I mean, these are like some of the best engineers now, like the best drilling engineers I know.
Those are the guys I look for. when I
Yeah.
recruit.
Yeah.
It's like initiative.
Yeah, they showed initiative. They get the nuts and bolts experience of oil and gas. They're close to the wellhead. And it also teaches you how to deal with people and how companies work, you know, how the business works.
It gives you the ability to communicate out there. I mean, if those
Yeah.
are the people that you're working with. I mean, one of the biggest takeaways I got when I started working offshore, I mean, HSC was on, I was able, like, I used to hate calling rigs before. I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know. And after you're out there, I mean, it gives you the experience to speak to the people that are actually next to the well, you know, on site, and you can actually have more efficient and clear communication. So I think that's the takeaway from getting that field experience is phenomenal. And Danny Salim has just said that NOV would love to host y'all. So again, but that's what this is all about. I mean, this is something for not just us to help each other out, but also our industry to kind of think, okay, well, how can we help out? How can we be that, take that mentorship?
NOV is big there. They know everything, motors to stacks to everything, BOPs to, they
We'll get the job done.
They do it all.
It doesn't hurt to ask, and sometimes it turned out to be like more than what we expected. And I think last year we asked for a small company about a tour, and we end up getting like they rented a bus for us, and like and they had like good food at the place and the facility, and they also have like free gift, and then they end up keeping the long relationship, and after that they sponsor some actor event like fundraising. They gave us some free sanitizer, free stuff to give out at the fundraising event. So it's turned out really awesome.
That's really I think companies probably will have that perception, you know, because, you know, first off, we want to communicate to the upcoming generation, but also it's fun. It's fun for them too. What are some of this is my question. I know we're talking about virtual. What are some other, I guess, topics that, I guess, besides job search and job availability that are kind of going on, I guess, in the all student chapters? I guess hot topics or themes that have kind of been brought up and discussed.
I mean, from my chapter, then we brought up a lot of like machine learning stuff, like machine learning, and we like focus a lot on technical, and we brought up like data science, some courses that give people like free Python training, and also we do a machine learning boot camp where we like selected students and put them into different groups, and they just study together and pick any topic that they want, and then they just like apply some algorithm like A&N or RNN or linear regression, and using Python to apply to the project. So we provide a mentor, which is just some PhD students. So they have a really good time studying that. And I think like a lot of people in oil and gas now, like when they thinking of transition, then they think about data science. So I think that's one of the biggest thing at our chapter. Yeah, that we focus on.
I would say that's a similar theme to ours. You know, a lot of students are concerned about, you know, because there's this many qualified people and, you know, this many jobs available. They're concerned, you know, should I start focusing on switching industries, or should I continue to work hard towards oil and gas? And so I've seen a lot of students kind of have that toss up and have that conversation with themselves and others. And yeah, it's a hard question to answer. You know, it's hard to figure out, you know, should I continue to go towards oil and gas, or should I go to, you know, something tangentially related, like, you know, being an analyst for a company or something like that, where you still use engineering skills, but not necessarily oil and gas.
I would say it's a personal choice. I mean, that's like, you know, Googling like buying a home or renting a home, which is better. It's a personal choice, I think, when it comes to kind of, you need to, whoever's out there kind of at this crossroads need to kind of think, okay, is this something I want to continue, or do I want to get some other transferable skills, which everyone has transferable skills.
Yeah, building off of that, I think one thing I was just thinking about that I think would be interesting to hear kind of your guys' perspectives on is, as students, I think we have a very narrow view of what the petroleum industry is like. Half of it's probably been in COVID, so that's maybe not the norm. And so I was just curious how you guys kind of viewed this downturn and like what you saw in the future as opposed to like different downturns, and kind of how you see this playing in and things like that. Maybe broaden our views just a little bit more.
So the question is, how is this downturn, how do we feel about it versus the last couple ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Let me type that, y'all. With boots.
So yeah, I come from an oil and gas family that has experienced some of these ups and downs, right? And ups and downs happen in any commodity industry because it's commodity price driven. It's out of your control, and it all hinges on supply and demand, right? So previous downturns were caused by these, massive oversupply, and then the price goes down, and then people kind of calibrate, and then it becomes tight again, and the price skyrockets back up. This one's different because there's not only a supply issue that was partnered with a demand issue, COVID, right? And maybe the biggest deal out of all that is there's a secular shift to alternative energies, right? Which is not a bad thing. That's like a good thing. And all these oil and gas companies have like significant dollars that are going towards alternative investments, right? It's we aren't going to sit here and say like, yeah, oil is clean for the environment and good. Like it's proven that it releases stuff, right? And so we as companies need to be forward thinking and think about how we pivot into these alternatives, because ultimately we're experts at delivering energy to the world, which is something that the world will always need, right? And so we have to figure out as engineers the way to solve that problem, because that's what an engineer is. An engineer solves problems. And so this one is a little bit different, because while we might see a supply crunch where price goes high again, there's going to be eventually a shift over to alternatives, right? Mm-hmm. And so my advice with that is I don't think there's anything wrong with going into oil and gas specific companies right now, as long as it's a company that has a long-term game plan to pivot and isn't just set in their ways of like, this is what we're going to do. Those companies will probably lose in the long run. You want to go with a company that has a creative outlook on future revenue streams. So not just throwing money at alternatives because it's what society says to do.
Yeah.
What happens to those companies is they go bankrupt, right? You want to look for companies that are prudent with their capital, that are spending it towards alternative initiatives that are going to be sustainable long term, right? And there's tons of those companies out there. I mean, it's big names that y'all know. It's the ones y'all talk to, right? So.
Yeah, but that's also related with one of my questions, that like, do you think that the oil and gas and the renewable energy can coexist? In my opinion, and I believe it can coexist, because I think a lot of the engineering knowledge that we learn, we can still apply to renewable energy, and like keep that going, or some environmental project like CO2 sequestration or something like that. It's still working with the formation, with understanding the well. So I do believe that I'm very passionate about the oil and gas industry, and I do believe that like it can coexist somehow, and we can still apply what we learn to do like some better project to make the energy industry like cleaner and more efficiency.
I just feel that, you look at the list of separating what the oil and gas industry provides, right? It's comfort and mobility, whether it's heating, whether it's power for mobility for your vehicles. There's electric cars, but when I think about what we extract and how it's cracked and how it's broken down at the refineries, when you look at petroleum products, wind is cool, solar's cool, whatever, nuclear energy, and Tesla, what they're doing. But you look at the thousands and thousands and thousands of things that are made from byproducts of crude oils. I'm not going to go through this list, but the perfumes, the lipsticks, the makeups, that stuff requires petroleum grease to come out of the ground, and so.
But that's something we're facing right now. I mean, what you're doing right now, which I completely agree, you're providing facts, right? Yeah. I mean, seriously. Seriously, you're providing facts. I mean, how often do facts really sway or make people understand argument? It doesn't. It doesn't. So those facts are good. So how can we, this is a cycle, how as we as an industry, I do want to get back to the renewables, oil and gas, but how can we as an industry communicate not just our need, but also, I guess, what we do for the communities. And honestly, in the environment, we've taken a huge ESG stance over the last 9 months, some companies even longer. So how do we communicate with, I guess, emotions and feelings, which usually wins our discussions over facts? Great question, JP.
Someone else want to feel that one?
Yeah, but that's a question not just for this table, but that's a question that everyone has to think about out there. Because so often you get online, it's like, oh, well, maybe this, and this, and this, and this. It's like, yeah, that's I know that, I understand that, but now we're getting that pushback from North Face, that Innovex. Anyway, it's not
The majority of their product is actually a byproduct of natural gas and oil.
Yes.
The Vortex and all the, anyhow.
The reality of it is we live in a world of polarizing opposites. In the middle is where we need to work to be, but it's really difficult to get off of one side or the other with everything, not just oil and gas.
JP, can you do a better job facilitating, not dragging us into politics?
I'm trying to advocate our industry. But here's the deal: I don't view the oil and gas. I've never talked to someone in our industry that is anti-renewable. You know what I mean? So we're already here. We're already at the point today where it is a blend between oil and gas, hydrocarbons, and renewable energy. So it's not like it's a this versus that. We're already here.
It's not. We're not an industry of outlaws out running around the pollute the earth, right? No. That's kind of the picture. One polarizing picture is painted.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, can they both coexist? Absolutely, and they will for a long time.
They need to.
Right now, in United States, renewables make up somewhere around 15% total. The rest of that is nuclear and fossil fuels. I look at it as competition is a good thing because we all want to get more efficient in what we do as a human race. We all live on this planet together. We got to take care of it. We got to do the right thing. So competition drives improvement. The other thing that's a huge key there is there's almost 8 billion people on the planet and growing. Look, over the last 10 years, we've added almost 1 billion people. That's the basis of the energy demand for the entire world. It's growing. It's not going anywhere. So as we bring renewables into this, I think that's great. To say that renewables have no negative impact on the environment is not correct. That's the other polarizing picture that's painted sometimes that's just false. We all have our impact on the earth. We all generate waste one way or another, whether it's old batteries, old solar panels, carbon monoxide emissions, take your pick. We have to balance those. So we need to have different sources to supply the world. Some are going to work some places, whereas others won't. Areas of high population density, you can't put enough windmills around New York City to power New York City. Infrastructure is the other huge piece of that puzzle. You think about the infrastructure throughout the United States, natural gas infrastructure, gasoline stations, relative to where we've got to go to get EVs up to anywhere near where diesel and gasoline vehicles are going to be. It's going to take years and investment, and along with all of that construction comes impact, environmental impact, waste. So you can't just flip a switch and say, okay, solar is going to take over, it's going to be zero waste, oil and gas is done. So we will coexist for a long time.
I agree.
I think there will be a decline of fossil fuels for energy, but how long does that take? It's going to be a very gradual progression, and I think we all need to be open-minded from both sides of that fence. I'm not anti-solar, I'm anti-wind. I think it's great. Make us better at what we do. If you look at the oil and gas industry and the efficiencies that we have shown, over the last 150 years, whatever, fracking over the last 10 to 15 years, horizontal wells. We drill one well now that produces as much as 50 vertical wells used to or more. That's what drives all of that. We have to get better. We have to get more efficient, not just for the almighty dollar, but also because we have competition pushing us. So that's how I choose to look at. Absolutely, we need to adapt it. We need to understand it, and where it makes sense, apply it, and get better at what we do to keep up with it. So.
Very well put. I agree.
Totally agree.
How do you think that? So oil and gas has obviously experienced a lot of investors kind of leave some areas, but how do you think that oil and gas is going to be able to advertise themselves in a light that's going to attract more investors to come back to the industry?
Go ahead.
That's great. So the answer is return and plus ESG. So Daniel Gergen, who a very well-known name in the commodity space, particularly oil, did a huge survey of a ton of institutional dollars, like the big money in the States and internationally. And the survey was focused on that exact question. Like, is oil and gas investment done, or is there a point where you come back in? And so he got tons of responses. I mean, this is billions and billions of dollars, right? And over 95% responded, if the returns are attractive enough, then we would come back, right? And so a lot of this money has had other places where they can allocate that have done incredibly well. Think tech industry, right? Bonds over the last 20 years have done incredibly well as rates have dropped. You got all this stuff, right? If those opportunities don't exist anymore, they are still required to make return. That's their job. And if oil and gas has high enough return, then now it becomes an attractive space again, right? And there are certain people who are morally like, okay, I'm never going to touch oil and gas again. But I think the huge majority says, hey, if there's enough return there, then we will invest. We'll just make sure that you're on the right track with ESG. Yeah, right.
The investment community learned a very costly lesson is that they listen to operators, and over the last 5 years, a lot of operators valued growth over shareholder return. Like, oh, okay, 1 quarter in a row, we're negative $1 billion. Okay, 2 quarters in a row, 3 quarters in a row, 4 quarters in a row. So, we lost a lot of investors pulling their money out of our industry because of lack of trust, right? So how do you provide shareholder return? Is you either become more efficient and do things safer, faster, deeper, cheaper, or you increase your dividend, right? And so operators are going to be faced with a very tough decision: is do you grow, or do you take your returns, pay off debt, or do you increase your dividend? So that's you see a lot of operators right now are either not paying down their debt and then increasing their dividend, or it's come back to bite them. So very tough part of the industry. I think over the next year or two, you see a lot more companies either consolidate or potentially go bankrupt. But the hindsight of this, I do feel that the strongest companies will remain. They'll figure out how to balance their budgets and return value to the shareholders, and I think the confidence will come back.
And as far as consolidations and things like that, do you think that'll continue? And how do you think that'll affect the job market, especially for incoming students?
Less companies, definitely less opportunity. Right now, a focus is G&A, which is general and administrative, right? That's basically your overhead, how much you pay your employees. And there's a lot of companies right now that they're heavily weighted with people, right? 1 engineer for 1 rig or half. It's just there's ratios that we look at as an industry and how much the G&A is per barrel or BOE, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these layoffs. It's like, hey, we have 25 drilling engineers, we have 4 rigs. Like, hey, what's going on? Or we have 17 frac or completion engineers and we have 5 frac crews. Like, hey, we could consolidate. So to answer your question, it's a tough answer, but there are going to be less opportunities. I feel
maybe less traditional opportunities. I mean, how we've operated.
That's where I was at.
Well, thank you. He said it first, but I think the way that we've operated as an industry for 150 years or the last 10 years is going to. I think the way we've thought we've operated even over the past year has changed dramatically. So I think there's going to be opportunities out there, but it's going to be opportunities that are not going to be as traditional as we're used to. You know what I mean? It might be areas where you actually do wear several different hats, or you're seeing a lot of technology these days. A lot of technology focusing on
data analytics.
Data analytics.
Those are all new jobs, right?
Yeah.
Tied oil and gas that engineers are going to be very well suited for. Those weren't there 10 years ago. You didn't have anybody that had a data analyst that was looking at the kinds of things, because we didn't have the data and we didn't have the software and capability to do it. So agreed. I mean, I think long term, you know, as far as the number of people employed in the industry, the number is going to slightly decline. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of technical jobs that come about as we get better and more efficient at what we do, which involves a higher level understanding from a technical side of things, especially on the drilling completion world, where there's a lot of unknowns out there with what we do still.
So when we say data analytics, I always think of this high-powered, you know, TVs everywhere, all these, you know, crunching going on. I just, you know, what does data analytics look like? You know, everybody says blanket statements like, oh, you know, we're growing data analytics. Is it one guy in a room with a computer? You know, because obviously there's computers that could do a lot of work as humans, right? You know, you see all these self-checkout stations at Walmart and HEB, and, you know, they're replacing humans. So does data analytics, does that grow over time, or is it going to be more efficient with computers and algorithms, right? You can write 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 algorithms, and you don't need a human crunching the math behind the scenes. So do we see an exponential growth?
It'll probably go that way after a couple of years. I think starting off though, it's gonna be a lot of human power. But I do think, I mean, with technology constantly evolving, I do think you're gonna see that side of things.
Yeah, so I have a glass half empty take and then a glass half full take.
You can have a glass half full.
That I'll do
Can you?
after. Not in today's commodity price.
Never trust an
Yeah,
optimistical.
Yeah, just a couple drops of water. That's all we're allocated for that. Okay, so glass half empty take is our data scientists I know who have expressed that concern, and it's like the whole point of data science is automation, right? Which automates people's jobs, right? Which is like not a good space to be. And the second thing they say is that the space is growing and like improving so quickly that it's hard for individuals to keep up, because as soon as you take a course on something, now like a program was built that does all that stuff that you just had to do, right? And so it's hard for individuals to keep up. Does that mean don't learn it? Absolutely not, because it's important to understand what the code is and what things are doing, and you know, you're gonna have to do that. Now glass half full take, right? When was the last time we saw huge consolidation and a huge lack of jobs and people getting laid off like crazy, right? Back in the 80s, right? Who leads all these companies today? The people, the students who came into the industry during that time, right? Why? Because they had to wear tons of different hats. They had to learn, okay, I got to learn how to do this, and they weren't slotted into one specific thing, because that just, you know, there wasn't enough capital going around. And so it built these amazingly talented people who are running all sorts of companies today, whether it's service companies, operators, tech companies, whatever, private equity. And so this is an opportunity for y'all to come in, you know, and yes, there's going to be more competition to get in the door. That's just what you have to deal with, right? Those are the cards that have been played. But if you can rise above that competition, you now have the opportunity to learn a multitude of skill sets, and you're set up for something a computer can never do, which is lead.
And interpret, you know, it still takes reason and teams of people to interpret the data that's spit out. Is it correct or not?
Mm-hmm.
We're not there. We're a long way from
Trusting.
Yeah, computer
100%.
Interpreting and making the right decision on well spacing. Or, you know, it's going to give you a data set that's compiled of millions of components, which we can't do by hand efficiently, but it takes experience and knowledge and reason to say this is okay, this is what we're going to go with, or this is not for these reasons.
Yeah, this is kind of off the topic, but another thing that we're talking about, I know we're throwing a lot of avenues of opportunity out there to potential people coming to the oil and gas industry, the students, and all that. So, you know, at least back in my day, I think the oldest person at this table, I'm 27. So anyway, I think back in my day it was, you know, you go to school, you get involved, you do okay, Grace, you get a job. Right now, with everything, I think, being virtual and there's a surplus of people that are out of work, skill sets, I think, and I'm not plugging around the Rotary, but I kind of am. We did 3 pretty relevant podcasts that discussed speaking to recruiters, headhunters, and job searching. And one thing that we did, Michael Renfro with the Energist, and Jonathan Rhodes, Lowry Rhodes Associates, and both of them have very good insight about industry trends. Not only that, Jonathan Rhodes had I thought it was very important. He said, tell your story, find out how you can add value, and that's out of the gate. They already got your resume. You know what I mean? So it's now's the time to actually tell them what you're going to bring to the table, and don't read the resume because they should. I would do that, and then yeah. So I think those are pretty good ones. And Ruben Rico did one when he lost his job. And for those out there that are unemployed looking for their next role, he talks about how he made looking for a job his job from 7 till 5, networking, getting out there. So I think that's pretty crucial. It's not just going in like, oh, here's a job, I'm going to go in. You need a little prep work. You need to tell your story. You need to stick out versus the other mass population that's going to be right behind you, knocking at the same door.
Sure. Also liked his point when he mentioned that, instead of getting into an interview and kind of going down your resume and reading your resume, they already know the material in the resume. So use the interview as a chance, like you said, to explain your value and explain, kind of your more personal skills as well.
Sure. And actually, Amanda Rico, who's Ruben's wife, she is a professional resume writer. She's listed in all these magazines and stuff. She has a very great resource and great network as well that discusses resumes and how to have a live resume, because you don't want to submit just a resume that's just one resume for each job. So it needs to be live. So there's some benefit to going back and kind of checking those out and finding these people on LinkedIn and just connecting with them.
That's a great point. One resume for 100 jobs is a bad approach. If you tailor a resume and it gets looked at and somebody can tell that you did your homework on the company or the position, you're gonna float to the top very quickly doing that. Just versus a blanket, same thing no matter what the job or the position is. So that's a great point.
Totally agree.
Cool. Any other questions from us over here on this side of the table?
I would say, as we discussed a lot about the changing in the oil and gas industry, so in your view, like in consideration of the downturns and the difficulty of finding a job, and what are some advices you have for some students who are considering getting into petroleum engineering program? Like how can they be confident enough to get into the program to do what they really passionate about, what they really want to do, without like the fear of all the stuff that like can kind of like slow them down.
So you're saying like the fear of picking wrong, like if they pick petroleum engineering or something within industry geology, and then they decide, oh, this isn't what I actually wanted to do. Is that your question?
Yeah, so I think what I mean is like maybe they know that they like the oil and gas industry, but like they heard a lot of news that it's gonna be downturns and it's really difficult to find a job. And should they still like be confident in getting into it?
The sky isn't falling. It always in the middle of these, it feels like the sky is falling. It's hard to pull yourself out of that perspective going through the downturns. They happen. It's going to continue to happen. We will come back. Whether we grow or not is debatable. It will come back from what we saw at the bottom of this year, because supply demand crunch all at the same time.
It's going to be there. There's going to be jobs. There's still operators that are going to go to campuses, all of y'all's universities plus more, right? Demand will be there. Like we said, we talked about earlier, we can coexist. But if I had a son or daughter that was in high school as a senior, I still think I would recommend becoming a petroleum engineer. And a lot of the things that we're talking about right now today and what y'all can be doing and to set yourselves apart, I would have them follow that. So I would have confidence in the future for industry.
Well, I think it's true. I mean, I do think at the end of the day, you don't want to do it just because it's a potential job with a good, comfortable living. If your heart's not in it, or if you don't want to get in the oil and gas industry, I just think you should pursue what you love. You know what I mean? Don't get in the oil and gas industry because it's something to do. It's something to do because you love it.
It was the highest paying.
Yeah, the highest paying anymore, but I'll tell you that. But I'm saying it's don't do it just because this is what my dad did, my mom did before me. You want to always choose a career path as something that you're gonna enjoy and you're gonna love. So that's That's my ballistic, soft hearts and minds comment.
And I'd also say you don't like volatility. Like if you want if you want just the steady job, then oil and gas or any commodity industry for that matter is probably not where you want to be. That there's other industries that are going to be more reliable, but with when you have these swings, there's like big opportunity. So that's kind of what's attractive about the industry, right? Is when the commodity price goes up, there's chances for huge returns. Some of that is paid back through salary, huge projects. And so if those are the things that you like, then yeah, this is an awesome spot to be.
Yeah, I think there is, like, especially as like a young student, I kind of came into mines, and one of the reasons I went to mines is everyone's an engineer, and so you don't really have to pick your major for the first 2 years. And I knew I liked science and engineering, but I didn't really exactly know which path to go. And there's lots of opportunities to kind of talk about today to kind of learn the science and engineering behind how we get oil and gas out of the ground. And for me, kind of that's what I fell in love with, was not the big salary, but it's the science, it's the engineering behind it. And I think if that's what you love, then this is the right path to go, and you'll find a way to make it. So.
Definitely. And sometimes you don't know that you like it at the beginning, but when you dig into it, and it's not like just going to class and go home, you feel boring. But if you go to some extra activity, go to conference, go to events, and meet more people, then in my opinion and in my experience, I feel those things make me like the oil and gas industry like even more, like, and I love and I'm confident at my choice about the industry. Yeah, and I guess like in our industry, it's always hard to find something if we don't try hard, and we don't improve ourselves every day, and it's always hard. So I guess doing what we love and take the initiative to get improving every day, and thinking at the end that everyone will be successful.
Within the industry, I'm so prideful to work in this industry. I love it to death. It's my passion, and I've been through 3 downturns, right? In 08, 15, and then this recent one, and just the technical ability for us to do it faster, safer, deeper, cheaper, reducing our costs on drilling, doing faster, fracking for less, using less water, carbon footprints, just being more efficient with what we're doing. We're such an innovative industry. Like all these the new technologies that are coming out with downhole equipment, we're an industry that adapts. And we're also, we talked about the 80s, but this industry overcomes adversity. We know how to overcome adversity. So just perseverance a lot of us have really awesome stories of things we've overcome. So I'm proud to work alongside them, and I just feel that we have a very strong future for our industry.
Oh, it's an amazing industry. And I think we're about to turn it over to the audience Q&A. If there is some, if not, we'll just kind of turn it back to this. But how involved, we're talking about networking and building kind of your contacts through other professionals. How, I guess, is the networking between the various student SBE chapters? That would be a good basis too for some networking opportunities.
I would say it's pretty well. Like we've got today, we've got multiple chapters represented here, but there are also other events that we've set up with other chapters from around the globe, really, and we're putting together conferences and student networking events, and even some facility tours and things like that with multiple chapters, again, from around the world. And these events have opportunities for these different students to not only sit and kind of listen to the same lecture or fireside chat or whatever it might be, but there's also time allocated for people from around the world to talk to each other, have these student networking, kind of a social hour, social half hour. Yeah. So I would say that I can speak for SPE. It seems like it's great communication between some of the chapters from what I've seen.
Yeah. Definitely changed from when I was in school. There was a lot of competition, like, oh, we're going to be chapter of the year, and it's like such rivalries at ATCE, like we real cliquish, right? We wouldn't talk to a guy from A&M or UT or OU.
I think even last year that was still kind of there, but I think now that it's COVID and everyone is going through adversity, like you mentioned, I think everyone's kind of like, okay, what can we do to improve both of our chapters?
Absolutely. It's honestly, when we look around the table, like we're in it together. we are in it together. You know, you're students and we're proud to wear maroon or, you know, burn orange hat or whatever. But at the end of the day, when we get out of the industry, we're together and we need to pull together. Even when we're, you know, you're in school, we all need to pull together.
The ultimate family is a real thing.
Absolutely.
It really is. So, does any other thing before we turn it over to the audience? I know we're kind of lagging a little bit on LinkedIn. So, I get anything.
Let's do some questions.
Let's do some questions, everyone. Now we want you to get involved here. All right, so open for questions. Let me type it in. Okay. Right?
We're almost done.
Q4 2020 Olympics. I'm mad right now, okay? Let me aggressive type, all right? Let me handle that. Okay. All right, let's see if we got any questions coming up, popping up. Oh, this goes, I guess, for the professionals. This is Monica saying, if you weren't in oil and gas, what else would you be doing?
Think about that one.
Keep it PG.
So,
Yeah, hey, please. My daughter's watching.
You know, I would say, I'm atypical. I was in mechanical engineering. I came out of school and I worked in the petrochemical world for the first 2 or 3 years. And then I came into the upstream oil and gas world. So I think that there's also something to be said for not being tunnel visioned on, I can't do anything else. You can, absolutely. You know, Mike touched on it earlier. You learned a lot in school. You made your grades. You had your experience. You get your diploma. You're not tied to only an oil and gas company or a service company. I mean, don't be afraid if you feel like, okay, I'm not getting what I want here, apply somewhere else. Your engineering skills apply lots of different places. And even more importantly than that, your work ethic, your attitude, and your character apply everywhere. So you got a degree, you all have a degree, you are getting a degree soon you can be proud of. I mean, if right now oil and gas isn't it, go somewhere else and say, hey, look, I'm trained in engineering and I want to work hard and learn and be valuable to you. There's no door that won't open that I'm aware of. You know, can't be a doctor without a few more years of school or a lawyer, but there's a lot of other jobs out there that you can do. So
If you know, go ahead.
yeah, so I always said, which kind of the timeline though for this is becoming shorter and shorter, but you know, if I was to get laid off or something like that, I would go to the military. So some of the best people I know come from the military, and I think it teaches you invaluable skills that are really hard to learn elsewhere, like extreme discipline, you know, selfless service, sacrifice, leadership, all this stuff that is like super applicable to everything in life, from business to your family life, all this stuff, right? And it helps allow everyone in America to continue to do the things that we're allowed to do here, which is awesome.
What branch did you go in?
Marine.
Oh, wow.
You in Corps?
I was in the Corps A&M, but yeah,
I was.
yeah. So that was my.
As you can tell.
there gave it away.
I'm on cover right now.
If I was not in oil and gas, I'd probably turn over to real estate. Not real estate agent, but you know, buying, rehabbing, you know, renting, refinancing houses and flipping houses. You know, I have a lot of friends that do it as a side hobby. You know, on the weekends they'll look at how to get a loan and then buy a $75,000 or $100,000 house and fix it up for $20,000, and then there's a lot of money in that.
I'm calling bikes in the rigs of real estate. Yeah.
So, you know, I have a friend that has about 10 or 15 properties in Lubbock, Midland, and elsewhere, and he gets about $500 to $1,000 free cash flow per house. So he has like $5,000 or $10,000 in his pocket, free cash flow every single month.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, you know, he has people that are managing it, so he doesn't have to go call a plumber at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, or, you know, so that would probably something that I would be interested in.
All right. Judith Ann Johnston, aka Mom. Thanks, Mom. Does anyone think that colleges and universities will start decreasing their courses and eliminating classes as a result of what's happening in the industry? Has there been any talk about that on y'all's campuses or anything like that?
Like reducing the quantity of petroleum classes?
Like a curriculum?
The curriculum, yeah, changing the curriculum.
I wouldn't say that they're taking away petroleum classes, but I would say that they're definitely adding like elective courses or maybe slightly tweaking some of our existing courses. So like you were saying that there wasn't Python at your school and stuff like that. So now we've kind of gone from VBA to using Python instead. And so in the past it was all VBA, but now some of our more technical classes, we're using updated technology, VBA, Spotfire, stuff like that. And they're also adding electives for, finally, unconventionals and data science and the oil and gas industry specifically. So
yeah,
I would say it's more updating the curriculum.
Okay.
we had a whole minor that got added at Colorado School of Mines, the petroleum data analytics minor.
Okay.
Really?
That's
Cool.
like
Awesome.
it's 4
Yeah.
or 5 classes.
Yeah, that's cool.
How many, just maybe y'all might know off the top of y'all's head, I've been pretty far removed, but at one time, I think my major was like 130 or 134 hours for the degree for what, do you know what your?
I think ours is around 140 hours.
So it's
Almost
grown,
140,
it's
yeah.
grown by maybe 2
It's
classes.
a little more difficult than ours is.
Probably.
I'd like to think so.
A little bit more expensive too, right?
So we got another one, Christopher Montan. Hope you're enjoying your daughter's first Christmas. What are the things that we can do as an industry? We asked this question, but this is something that we probably need to think about as an industry, and it should probably be at the forefront of our minds. What are the things that we can do as an industry to promote oil and gas and help change the stigma behind it?
Well, stuff like this is a start.
I think stuff like this, potentially there might be some positions opening up for a public relations affairs office, whatever. I don't know. What do you think?
I think getting younger voices and having genuine conversations. Like you said, kind of what we're doing now. But I think for a younger generation to see their peers approve of the oil and gas industry, I think is a huge step. If there's some kind of oil and gas media company that can be put together to advertise that sort of thing. I think that'd be extremely valuable. And I think all companies will benefit from that and want to contribute to it.
We have the data and the facts behind what we do, right? I know when I was living up in Pennsylvania, 2009 to 13, we had the Marcellus Shale Coalition, and their job was to get on LinkedIn, Facebook, and post. Colorado has one too, right? What is it? It's not Energy Proud or
Energy Strong.
Energy Strong. They have a very big marketing presence, right? I see their stuff all the time, logos, hashtags, all kinds of stuff. So we have the facts on our side. There's a very large resistance that's probably way more powerful than us that's pushing back because they have a different political affiliation.
Well, no, absolutely there is, but then again, it's not showing that it's being backed up by the facts. But I think we need to do a better part of getting out of that engineer mindset and start thinking about, okay, well, how do I convince my neighbor I've never met?
Storytelling,
storytelling, yeah, emotions. I think that should be a part of it. I think we need to be more advocates about what we do. We're not these, roughnecks. That's my point.
Yeah, I think really to convince people they need experience one-on-one with people who are in the industry, right? Because when you see something on TV or you come across an article online, it's like, okay, but when you have that tangible relationship and stories, right? Stories are what really communicate to people.
Yeah.
It's the FaceTime. It's us spending time with the people. I remember Pennsylvania, I'll go back to 2010. When we were drilling in people's backyards, and they didn't. 2009, 8, 9, 10, oil and gas was pretty new to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I remember if we were drilling about a 5-mile radius, we had to invite every single one of those landowners to a town hall. And so, I stood up there, 5 years, 6 years out of school, got 400 landowners, 300 landowners, throwing tomatoes at me, but we educated them, right? It's the facts. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we need to do it. This is what you should expect to see. Here's how it can impact your life, but here's the byproduct of it. Here's jobs, I remember these little old ladies came and said, my grandson needs a job, and we actually got him a job on one of the fractures, so just visibility and,
And also, I think I've found things to be successful. It's like, fossil fuels out, renewables in. It's like, look, I have a different perspective. I'm in the oil and gas industry. I see the families it supports and what it does for our nation and all that stuff. I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying I agree with you. There needs to be a room, but I'm not there yet. So until then, and this is actually a pretty good question we just got from Tyler Roan. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. For those that have gone through the new hire process, what advice would you give your younger self on early work/life balance within the industry? So you can look at that anyway. I mean, this kind of correlates to that. What would you tell your younger self starting off? What advice would you give to a young Andrew?
Set your priorities, right? And we talked about geographical location.
Yeah.
Back in 2005, Midland was not very popping, and still not. 15 years later, I remember I'd come out here months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania, there's nothing up there, no oil, no offices, no nothing. I started going up there months at a time. It's just set your priorities. We talked about it earlier about when you're in school, what are your priorities, whether it's fraternity, whether it's sports, whether it's golf. But if you're a new hire out of school, go out to the field, spend time on the field. Don't go out there and work from 9 to 5 and then go to the bars, the bar, Midland, or just set your priorities. Is your priority work and becoming the best you can be in these golden years of the 0 to 5 years that we talked about, or is it church? Is it your family? Is it your friends? Is it going out and being social?
Well, I think a huge balance. I think the experience is crucial, and what I'm seeing now, and I've spoke about this before on the podcast many times, but it's not just the experience and the field experience you're getting. It's also expanding your networks, because in March when things hit the fan, networks matter, and you can't build a network. It's very difficult to build a network in a digital world, right? Zoom and all that stuff. But that being said, so when you are out there, yes, it is work, prioritizing all that stuff, but I also think work is building your network, your professional network. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you tell little Keith?
Intentionally build a network with intention would be one, not just to know the most people, but know strategic people to a degree. You don't want to be mechanical about it. It needs to be personal and natural.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Andrew said, be cognizant of, what can I glean from this person? Or, get to know the field personnel on a personal level. They'll teach you extremely valuable skills that you won't get if you don't try to relate to them. There's a big gap between fresh out of college engineer and 30-year compressor mechanic. They're not going to be the most upfront and want to get to know you a lot of the times. You've got to take that step. You've got to, there's a fine line between confidence in your capabilities and humility in there's a ton you don't know. And you be like that your whole life. You got to walk that balance and have a perspective of, I have a degree, this is great, I know a lot of math, I don't know how that piece of equipment works, really. They do. And learning to manage that and get to know people that can provide value back to you and appreciate it. And don't just go try to drag, I'm gonna pull something out of you, I'm gonna pull something out of you, and I'm gone. That's taking the right approach to it. That would be my biggest points.
Yeah, so I think something that applies is I recently listened to a talk that Michael Dell gave. Right, it's this guy founded Dell Computers, became a huge deal. So I think his words are probably more valuable than mine. And so what he says, starting off, he says, in your 20s, you need to become a master of one thing, right? And so you need to figure out what that thing is. And he's like, it's going to take a lot of work, but you need to become a master at something. You have to figure out a way to set yourself apart from the rest of the crowd, right? So you can, know a lot of things or whatever, but if you don't really own a specific skill in your 20s, which is going to take long, crazy hours, then, you're probably going to get left behind later on. Second thing he says, GPA and your degree don't matter once you land a job, right? So once you land a job, you're in the door. But he's like, once someone's in our corporation, we never say, what was your GPA in college? Like that question never comes up. Like someone brings up a point at a meeting, it's like, oh yeah, but you had a 3.2.
What's this guy doing here? You got a 3.1?
Yeah. Like that's just not a thing, right? It's like no one in college asks for your SAT score when you're already in college, right? And so it's the same thing in the real world space. So his point with that is like that gets you in the door. Don't so much worry about just like head down all the time. Like, yeah, you're still going to put in hours to become a master at something, but you need to become more well-rounded with the people you know, which goes to your point and his last point of reach out to people as often as possible. So especially in this industry, you're going to be like in random locations, you're far away from, city hubs a lot of times early in your career. And so it takes a lot of initiative and self-discipline to continue to reach out to people that check in on them, see how things are going, right? And that, as JP mentioned, is stuff that sustains you when times are tough. You get laid off, and you got some people who trust you, they know your ability. They've been, you've been with them for years. They're like, hey, I actually know of a job that's open with X company that you would have never heard of otherwise, and you end up getting that job, right? So I'd say those three things.
Any other
This is-
questions or?
Well, yeah, we have one more, and I think we can wrap it up. Wait, no, let's
No, go to
no,
that
let's do
question.
this. No, let's do this.
No.
No. What do you got? You got something?
I'll say it in closing.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll do a
just wrap it
closing
up.
thing. So this is from Chris Zonbreaker, the managing partner of the #1 premier wellsite supervised project engineering consultancy company out there, CPC. He said, what is one biggest thing that each of y'all, being the student SB side of chapter, learned or realized from today's discussions with the veterans at the table? The veterans.
I don't deserve that status.
Well, go with it. It's on the screen.
There we go.
We're live.
I think that's a great question. I think for me, kind of just what you were just saying, getting something that differentiates you, and working on that one specific thing really, really hard, and using that one thing to really stand out, is a point that I've heard before, but not said in the same way. And I think that for a lot of students, whether that be data analytics or having a large network or something like that, I think is extremely valuable. And that's something that I'm working towards and will continue to work towards to try to set myself apart.
I think two themes I kind of took away. I think one was kind of what he was saying a little bit about having your priorities straight, and even when you show a resume or kind of when you show up to an employer, making sure that petroleum engineering and understanding the industry is kind of a priority in your studies, and maybe not your fraternity and things like that. And I think I've gained a lot of insights into kind of creative networking and kind of the opportunities that might be there to network, even though you might not have the face-to-face interaction that we typically have. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing for me, like networking. It's always everyone talk about it, but from today, like it's kind of stressed out one more time that like, it's this important and we have to do it. But like we said, that we have to somehow make it natural, and it's eventually just the interaction between people and people. So make it natural and long lasting. And another thing is that. From the discussion today, I think I'm confident about the petroleum industry, and it's always there. And even though like there's some other stuff that getting like renewable energy starting to get involved, but it will take a really, really long time for it to. And I don't believe that it will ever replace each other. We'll always meet in the middle, and how it's always work out somehow. So yeah, I think that's what I learned.
Another thing, yes, you're exactly right. Networking needs to be with attention. It needs to be personable. It needs to be genuine. It also needs to be fun.
Yeah.
Like I know everything you read right now in the news and on social media and what you're hearing at schools and all, it's all depression, skies falling. But it's not. It's okay to have a little bit of fun when you think no one else is. So have fun meeting people.
Yeah.
Have fun networking with people. That's kind of it. Any other questions, or you want to kind of bring it in, wrap it up a little bit with closing statements? Does that sound good with everyone?
Sure.
All right. We're gonna do some closing statements right now. All right. I'm gonna go last. So yeah, feel free to leave one, feel free not to. So why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, just, the key takeaways, we talked about a lot. One thing I did want to make sure we left with is obviously we are in the oil and gas industry, but we're in the business of people. We talked about things you could do to help you position to get yourself a job. We talked about Python. We talked about Spotfire analytics, webinars and things like that are free. I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give y'all is understanding your emotional intelligence. So there's IQ and then there's EQ, your emotional quotient. There's a book by, his name is Travis Bradbury. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And I highly recommend it. It's like $12 or $15 on Amazon. So what emotional intelligence is basically self-awareness, your strengths, your opportunities, you as a person, what triggers you, what stresses you out, and how you manage those, right? You're going to run into people that frustrate you, that you don't agree with, that will call you out in meetings. We deal with all types of people throughout our career. Good people, bad people, nice people, people that want to take advantage of you. That emotional intelligence is your self-awareness and how you deal with those situations and how you manage yourself in those situations. So there's your self-awareness and your self-management. It's social awareness too, understanding emotions in people, yourself, also understanding other people's emotions. You know, I've known JP for 7 or 8 years, and I know how to get him frustrated. You know, and I can, you know, I know how to push his buttons. So social awareness and understanding people and how you manage that relationship. So we're in a people business. We're going to be working with all types of people. I highly recommend that you read that book. What's the book? It's called Emotional Intelligence.
You do with that, to me, really sets you apart from everybody else in the 20 to 24-year-old demographic. If I had to go back and do it all over again, I would have made a more dedicated effort to set time aside on a weekend rather than just what's the next party or the next event. You know, take a Saturday, just do some self-reflect. Where am I? Set some goals is the other one I would say. You know, have goals not just for next month, but for 5 and 10 years. But be careful with that too, that you're not so focused on 5 or 10 years that you get going too fast through the motions of today and next week. You know, and enjoy the ride. Thinking about it, it's hard to imagine, but you know, I'm halfway through my career here. It goes by in a hurry. You know, I mean, 15 years. I'm not sure exactly how the bicycle.
Well, the first 3 years is always slow, and after that, you look back. It's over.
Yeah. It goes fast, and get what you can from the white hair around you. Find some good mentors that you can really get to know, and just pull it out of them. You know, and get the information from them because it's very valuable, and the clock's ticking. So.
Would you like to say anything?
No, I mean, one thing I was just thinking about I guess with my limited scope of the industry that I've learned is just that it is a pretty small industry and it's a little bit of a small family. And so you should never be afraid to reach out to anyone or to network or to, you know, it is a pretty kind of tight-knit community and we're all in this together. So for sure.
Yeah. Camaraderie is big.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of touched on that a couple of times, but you go from school, organization camaraderie to company industry camaraderie. That's one of the things that I really love about it.
I mean, that's why I love our industry. I mean, you came out to my wife and I's wedding. You know, you had our first 1-year anniversary. You know, you brought my daughter's birthday party. You know, that's the huge benefit of our industry. Like, and we met a week ago, and now we're friends. So our oil field family is a real thing, and the networks we make they're all genuine. It's good relationships that you have in this industry.
For me, I'd like to just say, thank you for everyone, for for allowing us an opportunity to speak to you guys and show some of the the younger perspective and student perspective to all of the viewers. I know that a lot of the Texas A&M students, we've got kind of an SPE group chat, and so they like to ask questions to kind of get a feel of what are the other students thinking, and some of those questions I brought up today, and I think you guys have had excellent answers, and I know some of those students are watching, so I hope they were able to get a lot out of getting their own questions answered.
Well,
I think everyone will be saying everything that I thought about, but I guess about networking, and what I learned is doesn't hurt to ask, and first impression is important, and people will never remember what you say, but they will remember how you make them feel. Yes, and about the job search, then what I think is like, don't think of a job is that it's simply what it will buy you with living, but treat it like a calling, like follow what you like. So if you do it like what you like, then you tend to take more initiative and do a better job than treating it just like a simple job. Yeah.
again, I think first off, I guess closing out, I'm probably going to miss a couple things, but I'm okay with that. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. No, first off, I want to thank everyone around this table for taking the time out of your Friday before Christmas, the holiday week we have coming up. Thank you all. I know that this is kind of a new thing that we've done, and I hope it added value. And actually, I'd like to do this again if people view this as potentially being valuable, getting some more people in here and get some different questions, different perspective. But I truly hope that this can help, not just people in our industry, but maybe even people outside our industry, help each, maybe the student SPE chapters to communicate about our industry and kind of quell some fears right now about what's going on in our industry. But yeah, we're here to stay. Again, build your networks. I want to thank everyone again for coming. Thank you for tuning in today, and all the questions and all the activity that we've got online. Again, subscribe to Around the Rotary podcast. We got some good stuff. And again, the ones to check out for the recruiting and job searches is Micah Renfro and Jonathan Rose. Those are two recruiters that have very good messages for people out there, and Ruben Rico as well. When he talked about when he lost his job and how we went to find a job mode. But, again, I want to thank everyone, and everyone have a safe and a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. We hope everyone has a good time, and that's it. So to a better year, and stay safe, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.
On Around the Rotary.